So let's have a look at some of the individual scenarios. So what we're going to look at now, so we saw there were four, external costs, external benefits, consumption, production. And we'll look at three of those in turn. And we'll start with looking at negative production externalities. So what we said is that it arises from a situation where the product is made rather than when it's being used. That's the first thing. And secondly, there are external costs. There are negative externalities resulting from production. And what we've got to show is why this results in a misallocation of resources. Intuitively, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Which is that if firms are putting crap into rivers, they're polluting the air, they're contributing to climate change, and they're not paying for it, then they're going to ignore it. They're going to ignore all of those costs. And as a result, the costs that they incur making a product are far less than the true cost of resources that have to be used. They pay, say, 50p to make the pen. So we're saying that the private cost is 50p, and that's plastic and labour and so on and so forth. But as a result of this, as a result of kind of climate change or runoff into rivers and so on, other people have to use resources. Other groups have to use resources. For each pen, maybe 20p of other resources have to be used to clear up the mess. And as a result, the true cost, or the social cost, is 70p. But the firm supplies on the basis of its own marginal cost. Its supply is based on private costs. If it had to pay all of the costs, they'd have to increase the price and they would supply less. Therefore, where there are negative production externalities, it's going to be overproduced. It's going to, because the firm ignores the impact on the third party. And that's the problem. So let's show how that results in a welfare loss and overproduction diagrammatically. So with these things, when you're drawing them, always start with this: supply equals marginal private cost, demand equals marginal private benefit. The equilibrium quantity there, that's the key to all of this. Now, in this case, we're assuming that there are no negative or positive side effects from consumption. So the demand line, we can say that the marginal private benefit and the marginal social benefit, they're the same. Because there are no externalities, we have assumed, in consumption. The externality is resulting from the externality is resulting from production. So, if we what does that mean? That's our private cost, but we're saying that the true cost, the full cost, if we took into account all of the costs of making these marker pens, we'd have to add on the damage that has to be cleared up. So for this pen, we'd need to add on a certain amount. We'd need to add on the external cost for that pen. For this pen, we need to add on the external cost for it. For this pen, we need to add on the external cost for it as well. So what we're saying is that every single pen costs more to society as a whole than it costs the firm. Because the cost to society is the costs that the firm pays because resources are used up. We use up scarce resources, plus the damage to the environment. So what we're saying is that the marginal social cost is right up there. So the marginal social cost is equal to the marginal private cost plus the external cost. So we want to be here. That is the optimal level. And the reason that's the optimum level is that it's only the units up to here. So we've got to look at each of these individual units here. X, 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 up to the optimum level. Let's look at each one of those units and see what they show us. That unit there, it has a marginal social benefit at that level, and the true cost is at that level. So the marginal social benefit is above the marginal social cost. And that's great. So too for this unit. That is the marginal social benefit, and that is the marginal social cost. So that one's great too. All of these units, up to that point there, have social benefit greater than social cost. And therefore, that, if we stopped there, community surplus would be maximised. All of the units made add more to benefit than they do to cost when all costs are taken into account. Unfortunately, however, we don't stop at the optimum level. We don't stop at point O. Yeah, we go past that point. And we produce these units here. And these are the problem units, these ones here, yeah? The ones between the optimum level and the equilibrium. So the equilibrium is higher than the optimum level, so we can see that it is overproduced. So that's our misallocation of resources. And let's have a look at the welfare loss. Why has welfare been lost? Because we've started to reduce overall welfare. And the reason we've started to reduce overall welfare is that for the next units, for each of these, the social cost is above the social benefit. The true cost is above the true benefit. True cost is above the true benefit. So for each one of those units, the cost is greater than the benefit. So we get all of that welfare up to there, but then we kind of get diswelfare, negative welfare, that eats into it. That orange triangle is your welfare loss. Because, so if we kind of looked at, what was happening to welfare against output, up to there, welfare is going up more and more slowly, but as soon as we go past that point, welfare starts to go down again. We're making units that are undesirable. I mean, we've still got lots of welfare, but we could have had more if we had not produced those units, if we'd stayed at the optimum level. So, where there are external costs that are ignored, the supply is too high relative to what would be socially desirable because the firm isn't paying all of the costs, as a result of which it's oversupplied, and we produce units where the social cost is greater than the social benefit, and that creates a welfare loss.